It was Tuesday, but in my world, days didn't have names anymore. There were only two states of existence, work and recovery. At that moment, I was failing miserably at the latter. I woke up in a sagging leather armchair. My neck, twisted at an unnatural angle, throbbed with a dull ache every time I moved my head. The TV was still on, muted and casting a deathly pale blue light onto the walls of my cramped apartment. The room was filled with a heavy, stagnant smell, a mix of cold, stale coffee and the sharp tang of industrial degreaser that seemed permanently etched into my pores. My eyes stung as if someone had shoved handfuls of grit under my eyelids. It had been a long day. I glanced at the microwave clock, 8:54 p.m. I slept maybe 40 minutes. Just enough to wake up feeling even more leaden than before I drifted off. Suddenly, the phone on the table jolted to life. It began to vibrate, making a dry, mechanical buzz that reminded me of a drill biting into wood. Greg. My supervisor. Greg never called at this hour just to check in. He only called when he was in deep shit and needed an extra pair of hands. I let it ring 3 times. My arm felt heavy, as if it didn't quite belong to me. Yeah, Greg. I rasped. My voice sounded like sandpaper on concrete. Hey, you awake? Kid, it's 9 o'clock, he barked, and I could almost smell the stench of his cheap cigars through the receiver. Listen, I'm in a real bind. You know that regional distribution center off Route 4? That big concrete block behind the old coal plant. I stared blankly at the blue glow of the screen for nearly a minute. The distribution center on Route 4. 40 minutes out of town. The middle of nowhere. I was sleeping. I think I was having a weird dream. I know the place. What about it? The worker, Miller. He just walked out. Didn't even call, just sent a text. I am done. Keys are in the Dropbox. We've got a corporate inspection at 6 a.m. If that floor isn't scrubbed to a shine, we lose the contract. I need you there now. Every muscle in my body begged for mercy. I was about to say no, but Greg knew exactly where to hit. I'll give you triple time. Cash, under the table. And a bonus if the inspection goes smooth. You do this, and you've got the rest of the week off. Hey. Triple time the rest of the week off. Greg was never this generous. My mind flashed through the bills, the credit card, the endless debt, and I hadn't had a day off in weeks. Fine, I said, rubbing my stinging eyes. I am on my way. The drive to Route 4 felt like a slow descent into a void. Once I crossed the city limits, the streetlights thinned out until they vanished entirely. My headlights cut a narrow, trembling tunnel into the thick dark. Occasionally, I'd pass a lonely gas station. Their neon signs buzzing in the damp air, but eventually, even those were left behind. There was only the asphalt, the boundless gloom, and the low, tired moan of my old Ford. I thought about Miller. We'd worked together for 3 years. The guy was bulletproof. Always on time, always finished the job no matter what. And then suddenly, I'm done. Keys are in the box. What could break a man like that? Why such a cold, sudden decision? The more I thought about it, the tighter my grip became on the steering wheel. Maybe he had personal problems, but why quit like that? The warehouse loomed out of the darkness. A single flickering lamp above the loading dock cast a sickly yellow light. I found the key in the box, exactly where Greg said it would be. I stepped inside and flipped the main breakers. The building groaned. The fluorescent lights hummed to life in staggered rows, fighting back the shadows until the massive hall was flooded in a sterile, white glare. Empty racks stretched high toward the ceiling, seeming to go on forever. The machine was waiting in the back, a Clark Focus 2. A heavy, beat-up floor scrubber that had seen far too many nights. I filled the tank and poured in the purple degreaser. The sharp, chemical aroma hit my throat instantly. I walked over to the side door, propped. It opened with a wooden wedge, and let the cool night air rush in to mix with the fumes. I wanted that floor to dry as fast as possible. I unrolled the thick, yellow extension cord, plugged it into a pillar outlet, and gripped the handles. The vibrations hit me immediately, rattling through my hands, shoulders, and neck, all the way down to my spine. The hum of the motors and the wet slurp of the squeegee vacuum filled the warehouse. The first few hours passed in a monotony. Long, straight lines. Turn. Overlap. The grind came up slowly. Old oil and rubber stains turning into a gray sludge that the machine sucked up with a rhythmic, pulsing sound. I felt sweat trickling down my back, my shoulders stiffening from constantly wrestling the heavy scrubber. 1:30 a.m. My back was giving out. I cut the engine to empty the recovery tank. In the sudden silence, the warehouse felt different. Alien. Like the walls were slowly closing in. I stared into the distance, down those dark, empty aisles between the racks. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. I whipped my head toward row 14. For a split second, I saw a shadow. Something darted through the gloom. Hello. I called out, my voice echoing hollowly off the concrete. Silence. Get it together, I muttered to myself, feeling my heart accelerate. You read just exhausted. You're seeing things. I drained the water, walked back to the machine, and fired it up. Suddenly, the lights went out. The machine died in the exact same second. The darkness was so thick I could almost feel its weight on my shoulders. I stood perfectly still, listening, trying to figure out what happened. I thought about the breaker, the old wiring, the power draw. It made sense. I knelt on the wet floor, felt for the machine's power lead, and pulled the plug from the outlet just to be safe. I'll call Greg. I'm not messing with the electrical myself, I thought. I started toward the door. My eyes were adjusting slightly. I was almost at the threshold when I heard a familiar, rising whine. I spun around. The Machine-S motor, it was running. The scrubber was moving through the center of the hall. Someone was steering it. I could see the silhouette of a figure hunched over the handles. Hey! I shouted, but the word caught in my throat. No answer. The machine glided slowly toward me. I took a step back and suddenly tripped over something on the floor. I looked down. The yellow cord lay at my feet. It was unplugged. It was impossible for it to be running, and yet the motor roared louder and the brushes scrubbed the concrete with fury. The dark figure behind the machine didn't stop. I panicked. I bolted for the open door. I could see exit. I could see the forest. And then, something slammed me to the ground. I was thrown back with terrifying force, landing hard in the wet sludge. What happened? What did I hit? The door was wide open. I could see the gravel in the parking lot. I could smell the trees, yet I couldn't pass. It was like hitting a wall of glass. Why can't I get out? I screamed. I took a running start, intending to hit the barrier with everything I had, but at that moment, the lights in part of the warehouse flickered on. But they were different. They were heavy, a dirty, bruised orange. The warehouse changed in a heartbeat. It looked like it had aged centuries. The racks were eaten away by rust. Dust covered everything in a thick shroud. My hands tingled, and cold sweat poured down my neck. In the center stood the scrubber. The same one. I walked closer, though my legs felt like water. The machine was completely scorched, its metal casing warped by extreme heat, leaving a black, melted skeleton. And next to it lay a body. A human corpse with hands charred into black lumps. I took one last, trembling step and froze. Next to the machine, I saw myself. The same uniform, the same boots. The FA.